DreAllDay.com.
DreAllDay.com. Daily motivation. Topic is the majority is always wrong. This is something that, if you're familiar with a guy named Earl Nightingale, he's a personal development guy from back in the day. And this is something that he said in one of his tapes called Lead the Field. This is back when they used to put the audios on cassette tapes. And he said, anytime you step into a new space and you want to stand out, you want to be better than most of the people around you, all you got to do is look around and see what everybody else is doing and do the opposite of that. And the point of it is not that every single thing that everybody else is doing is wrong in detail on a literal level. It's just that in the big picture, in the aggregate, if you always do the opposite of the majority of people, in the big picture, you'll usually end up being more successful. And why is this? How do we know this to be true? How can we validate this? We can validate this with the simple truth that most people, by definition, are average. Most people are average. That's the reason why the average is the average, because it makes up the majority of people. So anytime you're in any space, most people are going to all come together kind of in the center, in the middle, or at worst, they're going to be at the bottom. Because most people usually do bare minimum. Most people don't really think too hard. Most people aren't trying to do something to make themselves stand out. They're just trying to blend in, which is why most people look around, they see what everybody else is doing, and they do what everybody else is doing. So if you do the opposite, then you'll be different from the average. And on certain topics, especially anything that comes to, when it comes to progress, when it comes to forward movement, when it comes to money, the majority is extremely wrong almost all the time. This is why, if you look at the data, if you want a statistical backup of this, the Social Security Administration started looking at these numbers way back in the day when they first started doing, when they first start having Social Security and the retirement age, which goes back to back a little bit before my parents were born. And what they found out was that by the time people got to retirement age, which when it first started, Social Security retirement age was around age 65. These days, retirement age is a little bit later because people are living longer and working longer. Is that 1% of people will be financially rich, pretty much rich. They could live the rest of their lives without ever having to work for money. That was their definition of rich. Then 4% of people rather, were financially well off, where they were pretty well taken care of financially. Then 20% of people were still working because they needed the money, not working because they wanted to, but working because of financial need. They needed the money. And then that makes up, 15%, which makes up a whole 20. And the other 80% were either financially dependent on somebody or dead. 80% of people, by the time they reached retirement age, after they had 60 years to make money, 45 years to make money, were in a position where they could not financially take care of themselves when that's all they've been doing for the past 45 years was working. Only 20% had gotten to the point, 20%, 15 of that 20 were still working, and only 5% had actually made the grade to where they didn't need to work anymore. They had done enough financially to where they were in a good position. The point being, the average, most people, the biggest group of people was at 80%. We're either dead or financially reliant on the government, reliant on their parents. Not their parents, their children as a parent, or relying on some other kind of handout for themselves because they hadn't made the grade financially. The point being, and these stats, this started back in the 50s and the 60s. These stats are still accurate as of this day. They have not changed. Even though we have more technology these days, it's allegedly easier for people to make money. It's easier to start a business. It's easier to access other people. There's more money in circulation these days. Inflation, the cost of things has gone up. The value of a lot of things have gone up. Despite all of that, despite the internet and all these things that make it so easy for us to do things. How easy is it to start a business these days from your computer without leaving your house? Whereas 30 years ago, to start a business, you had to get some kind of license, you had to know somebody, you had to have a physical location, you might have needed some startup capital. These days, you don't need any of that to start a business, start selling stuff, and actually start turning a profit. Despite all of that, the numbers have not changed. The same small percentage of people who are able to make the grade financially is still the same number now that it was back then. And why is that? Not because the government did anything wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean they did anything right either. It's because people are still people, and the average are still the average. And if you want to be different than the average, all you got to do is the opposite of what they do. So there, I gave you a literal explanation of this that goes to the actual numbers and the data. I gave you some metaphorical explanations of this, and I explained it out in a way that hopefully you all can just understand this on a logical level, why you don't want to follow what most people do, because most people don't end up where they say that they want to end up in life. And if you can just take this idea and apply this to everything that you're doing in life, look around. This is something that I said in the video. This has had to be about, let's see, I'm recording this in 2023. So this video, I had to have put this out probably about 2009. It had to be about 14 years ago, where I talked about, people would always talk about working hard. I want to work hard. I want to make sure I'm outworking the crowd or doing stuff that everybody else is. I want to stand out from the group. And I was talking to athletes when I said this, but this will apply to all of you right now. And I said it, this is what I said in that video back then. Look around at yourself when you're doing your work, the stuff that you consider to be putting in work, and you're working hard and you're doing the stuff that you feel is going to move you forward in life. If you look around and you notice that there are a lot of your peers also doing the same thing that you're doing the same way at the same time that you're doing it, you're not doing anything. If you really want to be doing something that you know is going to separate you from the crowd, you should be doing stuff that other people around you are not doing, to where you are by yourself and you're not part of the crowd. You find yourself as part of the crowd anytime in your life, you're probably in the wrong place and you're dealing with the wrong people and you're doing the wrong things, and it's all based on the wrong thinking. Anytime you find yourself being part of the crowd, you want to separate yourself from the crowd and be different from the crowd. The challenge of being different from the crowd is that the pull of the crowd is a very strong pull. It's a very strong pull to want to do what everybody else is doing, because human beings are social creatures. We are socially driven to match what we see everybody else doing. But matching what everybody else is doing usually leads us to being and remaining average. So this is the paradox. This is the challenge, that we are driven to do what everybody else does, but doing what everybody else does actually puts us in a spot that we actually don't want to be in the big picture and in the long run. So this is how you got to fight against that. So with that said, that's the daily motivation for today. Text me if you want to get my daily motivation text, which is a different message than what I send in these, but you can get that message straight to your phone every day for free. All you gotta do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894, and every morning when that daily motivation goes out, you'll be getting it straight to your phone free of charge. Make sure also here on YouTube you subscribe to my channel so that you are getting the notification. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, make sure you like, share, comment on the video. All those things help us feed the algorithm, let the algorithm know, like, hey, Dre got some good stuff over here. So that means the algorithm will show these videos to more people, and we get more people into the Work on Your Game world, and also Work on Your Game University. So any of you ever asked, Dre, do you have any courses or coaching or anything like that, higher level material? Answer is yes, and it's all in one place. That's Work on Your Game University. That link, workonyourgameuniversity.com, is down below in the description to this video. So you just click that link. Also down there is the number to get my daily motivation text for free, straight to your phone every single day. And I'll see you on the next motivation video coming out tomorrow. Just make sure, again, like, comment, share, hit the notifications, subscribe to this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Work on your game.